Tara, what video do you want to do next?
You want to talk about marriage or divorce?
Well, you can't get divorced if you're not married. Wah, 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 wah.
So are you saying marriage next?
Marriage next.
Marriage next.
Stay tuned. Love, exciting and new. That's what we're talking about today.
Is that the Love Boat?
Yeah.
Did you watch The Love Boat?
I totally dated myself.
Yeah.
Come on.
Wasn't a big fan of Love Boat.
Okay.
But, I mean, good concept, I guess, but you can actually find love without chartering a boat, right?
That's good, because
Yeah.
I get seasick.
So today we're going to talk about marriage and just, some marriage tips. Because marriage is definitely a 100 commitment. Yes, it's not 50-50.
No.
That is a myth.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there's a lot of myths with marriage, don't you?
Like, you're going to complete me, or you're going to be the solution to all my problems.
Or that it's going to be a fairy tale.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, you're just the best. I love you so much. I love you so much. You're the best.
Happily ever after looks different.
Yeah.
Has wrinkles and chubbiness sometimes.
What are you saying, Tara?
No, happily ever after, I think, doesn't look like what you think it's going to look like going into it. Let's just say that.
Disney lied to us.
Well, that is true.
Yeah.
Marriage is hard. Truth, marriage is hard. But it's worth it. And anything that's worth having is worth putting effort into.
Mm-hmm.
I would not go back for nothing.
Mm-hmm.
My husband and I have definitely, had rough spots or what in the world was that? Challenging.
We need to dust. That's what that is.
Little floaty from the sky.
Uh-huh.
So I asked my husband what is the best marital advice he could give. He could only come up with one thing, but I'm still grateful.
At least he participated.
He tried to participate. God bless you. But he said being selfless. And that kind of goes back to that 100, that it's not about you. And I think those first few years of marriage, that is what the lesson that needs to be learned.
Yeah.
It's not about you.
Uh-huh.
That
it's about us.
it's about us. You are now a team, and that's how you should be looking at all problems and all situations.
Mm-hmm.
We are on a team, and just like when you're on a basketball team, it's not just the person who shoots that's important. You have to have the person that's going to pass the ball. You have to have the person that's going to rebound.
Mm-hmm.
All those things are important for the team to be a win.
Mm-hmm.
And we definitely want our marriage to be a win. And in this society, the statistics for marriage success are depressing.
Yeah. So let me stop you there. So how do we define, this isn't on our list of questions, but how do we define success?
That's a
in
great
marriage?
question. Well, in my opinion, a successful marriage would be one where both people in the marriage feel validated. They both feel important to the other. That they feel like that they are heard.
Mm-hmm.
That there's enjoyment. I think that it is important to find things that both of you enjoy to do,
Mm-hmm.
such as hobbies
Yeah.
or things that aren't related to bills and your
Mhm.
everyday,
Mm-hmm.
stuff that you have to go through, that you continue to date each other.
Yeah.
I find that very important, that you still enjoy each other, and also that you can work through your problems. That, when something happens, you don't fall apart.
Mm-hmm.
That you are able to have maybe a loud discussion, but a productive discussion. I mean, people fight. That's just part of marriage. And anybody who tells me that they don't fight ever with their spouse, I don't believe them.
Yeah.
Or I don't think it's healthy.
Yeah, because you're stuffing it if you're not fighting.
Yeah, I mean, would you agree with that, or do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah. Well, I think definitely that you're heard and that you're honored, and I look at my marriage with my husband as I can be my true, authentic
Ooh, I like
self.
that. Yes.
And he loves me.
Yeah.
And I know it to my core. And I trust him 100%. And to me, that is just, there is like no amount of money in the world that I would swap for knowing that.
Yeah.
Hey, keep it down. We're shooting a video. We're keeping that.
So, on that note, you made me think of in those early years of marriage, like that first probably 5 years, I really came to true realization about myself. And that was that I think I need some water.
Okay. Still on marriage.
That's a good thing.
We've not moved on.
Stay married. So, really, I think essentially one of the best pieces of advice is to get over yourself. Be humble and sacrifice your desires for the unity of your marriage. I know that there are several things that I can think of that maybe I wanted to do or I wanted to buy and he wasn't in agreement with, and at the time I thought it really stank, and I thought that maybe, that I was even right, but was willing to just let it go because my marriage was more important. And that's a good way to make decisions, is the marriage. That relationship is always more important than a material object.
Oh, absolutely.
And to choose each other over and over every day. I do feel like that's something that has led to the success of my marriage, is that Billy and I have always chose each other. Whether that meant that we chose what was best for our marriage. Another good point is let God be the glue. You ever heard that?
Just now.
That there are times that you're not going to get along.
Right.
And there's times that crisis happens. There's times where challenging situations come into the marriage. But if you're both looking to God and you're both committing to stay, then God will be the glue. When we lost our child, I look back on this time as probably like the pivotal moment that made the decision for the rest of our marriage.
And that was early in your marriage too.
Yes,
right?
It was pretty early in our marriage, and our first child, and he passed away. And the day of the funeral, he was buried behind our small little country church, and we had just had the graveside service. And the family and friends that came to support us all went over to what they called the annex to have lunch. And Billy and I walked back into the church and laid down at the altar. Because we knew, and we really didn't talk that much. I think it was just this moment of what we're facing, we know, is overwhelming and too big for both of us.
Yeah.
And we need God. And so we just surrendered right then and there that, Lord, we need you. And that's the place that we knew to go to do that. So I feel like, when I look back and I think that was the moment.
Yeah, it's definitely a pivotal moment. Because we I've heard you say we all grieve differently.
Yes.
And so just giving each other grace to grieve in a horrendous situation like that is, pivotal. And
Yes.
important.
And, that is where we redefined our commitment. It was like, okay, this is going to be hard, but we are staying together. We are in this forever. And so no matter what we're facing, no matter what the situation is, we know that together is where we'll be. And, that's marriage. That's your vows. That's walking them out. And I think every marriage at some point comes to that place.
Well, that just kind of reiterates this first point up here of get over yourself and be humble.
Yeah.
When we are walking in humility, I mean, to me, that is where relationship intimacy happens, when we are not thinking of ourselves, when the other person is not thinking of themselves. There's a level of just intimacy, and I'm not talking about sex, I'm talking about just heart. Those two hearts are definitely one.
Well, intimacy in the Bible is actually defined as knowing each other.
Yeah.
So you're knowing deeply who that person is. And I think that in order to do that, you have to look outside yourself.
Yeah. That's the beauty. To me, that is, besides it being a picture of Christ and his church, that is the beautiful thing about marriage. It's just that intimate knowing of another person for the rest of your life. To me, that is the grandest thing. I love that.
Oh, yes.
What else you got?
What else do I got? Well, it just reminds me of a time that Billy and we volunteered for a youth program, and we were responsible for the food. And I remember the pastor saying to us, he watched us kind of scurry around, and there were some issues that come up, and so we had to problem solve, and but we got it done. And when we were finished with the meal, he said, "You two work like a fine oiled machine." And I've always remembered that because I thought that was a good picture of marriage.
Yeah.
That, you instinctively, we had been together long enough that we didn't have to necessarily talk the whole time. We kind of knew that we could rely on that other person to be there. So that was really cool. Make sure that you're praying. Prayer, when we talk about God being the glue, we want to be praying for our spouse. We want to be praying, another one of those, when I look back, one of those life-changing moments, because I've been married forever, and I mean that with endearment. But,
in case Billy's watching.
Yes. But I can remember a time when I felt like my needs weren't being met in the marriage. And it wasn't because my husband didn't care. It's because he couldn't read my mind. And what I started to realize was it's probably the same for him. So I started to pray that God would show me how to meet his needs, and that he would show Billy how to meet my needs, so that we could be who God wanted us to be together. And I would pray over our marriage too. Let no man put asunder what God has joined, and just praying the word over our marriage. So,
And asunder means tear apart.
Yeah. Let no man tear apart, come between.
Or woman, tear
Or woman.
apart.
Yes, absolutely. And that kind of goes into fair fighting rules.
Oh, yeah, that's a must.
Yeah, that's something that we came up with. Those, fair fighting rules are kind of something that we came up with. We didn't really title it at the time, but so agreeing ahead of time, and you make the rules for this. It don't have to be the rules that, like my husband and I have put forth, but what we did was set a standard that, okay, we're going to argue, but we're staying together. So that means that any disagreement that comes up, we are looking for a resolution to. We are looking for how to solve the problem. Now, there's times when it's about something ridiculous, you just agree to disagree, like
mayonnaise.
Like mayonnaise. I did ask Sabrina, what's the dumbest fight that you and Bob have ever had? And it was about where the mayonnaise jar was in the fridge.
It's a true story.
Yeah, and you can get in a long, heated discussion over something that is so ridiculous.
Yeah.
For Billy and I was trying to think, and the only thing I could come up with is we have an ongoing argument about pillows. He always thinks I'm stealing his pillows. I don't want his pillows. They're flat. I don't like them.
I think you should write your name on every pillow.
I've thought about it.
Just for cuz.
And he's convinced that I want his pillows. And I have a thing with the sheet, the tag being at the bottom, and it has to be at the bottom, and he thinks I'm weird for that. So
I have a thing about sheet, like, I want one covering me.
yeah, we both think
Lost.
the other person hugs the blankets
Yeah.
and stuff. But so those are silly, and you just like agree to disagree.
Mm-hmm.
Just
Sometimes.
make it light, move on. But if something has to be solved and we can't come to that resolution, then we agree to both pray about it and then come back when we feel like we've got an answer. Because
That's good.
when we submit ourselves to the Lord and we submit that, and this goes back to humbling yourself, that I could be wrong. I could be wrong. Then we allow God to work in our heart and just bring about the best solution for your family. And sometimes we need God's perspective to make that work. Another thing that we do is, we don't scream at each other. So we stay respectful. Our voices might raise, but we're not going to yell at each other. We're not going to call names.
No.
And we're not going to walk out.
No.
Nobody leaves, and nobody threatens to leave, because those things take an argument and they go way too far. And when you've agreed to stay together, that's counterproductive. We also have rules about the opposite sex. That we're not going to be in a closed space with the opposite sex, not going to carpool with the opposite sex. Not because neither one of us has trust issues, but that our marriage is so important to us that we want to avoid even the possible accusation from an outside source. The appearance of. And it just, my marriage is so important to me that it's not worth it. I mean, none of those things are worth jeopardizing or coming close to. So
I used to work for a place that our boss would randomly just say, hey, let's go to lunch today, because he had something on his plate that he wanted to talk to us about. Meaning one-on-one, and he was the boss of an office full of women. I would always call my husband and just say, hey, this is happening. And I just want you to know, and we're going here, and it shouldn't take more than an hour. And so, that we just communicate. So so nobody sees me out with my boss and thinks it's something else. Of course, if they could read any kind of body language, they would know that there's not a chance. But anyway,
but even if your intentions are pure, I think it's important to protect the marriage. I worked for a boss who set a very good example in that way, who had very similar boundaries with his wife, and he always made sure there were 3 people.
That's a good.
So, you can. It's whatever works for your relationship, and you have to be the ones to define that. But those are some things that work for us.
And going on with fighting fair is, I always tease my husband when we get in a fuss, and I'm just like, well, I'm gonna call my mama, and I'm teasing,
But I don't want to deal with Faye Parker, so I understand.
She's a heat, ruling and reigning. She's a boss without explanation.
I'd be like, Bob,
time out.
I'm out. White flag.
but just we tease about that. But yeah, it's keep mama out of it and just be about the two of you. You know, because Bob didn't marry my mother; he married me, and so
Yes.
yeah. So the two of us need to work things out. But I have said,
don't bring other people into your arguments.
yeah, I have said, okay, I'm too upset right now to talk about
Mhm.
this. I need to go for a walk. And so I'm not leaving. I'm just taking a breather. I'm just taking a lap. And I just need to get away and clear my head. And
space is good sometimes if, you know, you both agree to it and you know what's happening there. And I think it's important to always think the best of your spouse. Even when I am fuming, I try to take a step back and just remind myself that I married a good man, that he loves me, that he loves the Lord, that he wants the best. And the two of us may not be acting our best in the moment, but maybe we need space, or maybe we need to pray about it. But yes, always think the best. And you know, I also believe that you should not be trash talking your spouse. Now, if you have a special friend or, you know, like a girlfriend that like you need to vent to occasionally, I think that's perfectly okay. But don't be tearing down your man, you know, because you wouldn't want him doing that. And it's a respect thing. And it brings somebody else into the marriage, and you shouldn't, you know, should avoid that. So.
But you definitely can tell the Lord when you're upset. Just say,
yes, that doesn't work well for me. I mean, I do it. But usually he's like, get down there and apologize. Yeah. He usually pulls me up on my bootstraps and sends me back. And I'll go like a pouty toddler, you know, but hey,
I'm sorry.
Yes.
Yeah.
But bring those needs to the Lord, absolutely.
Well, the thing is, with my husband, I can't stay mad at him, and it works to his advantage. So, we were in some kind of big thing, and I don't even remember what it was about, but I was mad, and I don't get mad very often, but just something he did really irked me. But yet, like an hour later, I'm apologizing because I can't stand the tension between the two of us. I can't stand it because he's
sometimes we just
he's my love, you know.
Yes.
I can't stand to be
at
sideways with him, you know.
Sometimes we just get tickled. He looks at me and I look at him, and it's like, oh, this is over, you know. You know, another thing that we do is we never make decisions based on money. So money is one of the things that is highest in
divorce rates.
Divorce rates, and a very common issue for people to fight over. And I mean, it's kind of sad that a marriage would fall apart over money. But we have just made it a rule that we're not going to base decisions off of money. So what that means is that if, you know, we're not going to be constantly chasing the dollar. If he gets an opportunity to make more money for another job opportunity, then we are going to discuss all the other elements and not you know, just look at, we're going to have more money, because, you know, money comes and goes, and God knows what's ahead for your life. He knows what's down the road. So we always make sure that we're praying about those decisions, that we're submitting ourselves to those decisions, but understanding, you know, how's this going to affect our time together? How's this affecting our time with our family? So just a good little point.
Yeah, because often, you know, job promotions or jobs that pay you more money, they're not a gift. You have to earn them.
Yeah.
You know, there's going to be kind of a cost. You have to do a cost analysis on the whole situation.
And, you know, it can be a lot more responsibility, time away from the family. So things to think about. Grace and forgiveness.
Yeah, that should be
love like Jesus.
Just your soundtrack, your love
Yeah.
soundtrack, grace and forgiveness.
Yes, just offering that grace to your spouse, knowing that they're going to have days where they haven't had enough sleep, when they are going to have days where they're in a bad mood. And what I try to do is if my husband is being particularly grumpy
Mm-hmm.
and it's starting to get to me, I will say something like, so, how was your day at work? Try to get around, like, did you have a bad day at work, or did you not get enough sleep? And usually it'll come out and it's like, oh, okay, well then I'll just take everything you say for the next 10 hours, with a grain of salt, because you're probably just tired. And I also try to do the same for my husband. If I'm in a bad mood, I try to let him know, like, hey, I don't know why, but I'm in a bad mood today. Just kind of throwing it out there, because it's not fair for, my husband, who seeks to make me happy, and he seeks to, for me to feel secure in our relationship, for him to think that he's done something wrong.
Right. And men can't read your mind. They can't.
Boy, that was a lesson. That was a lesson I had to learn early in the marriage.
Oh, yeah.
Woo! Because that would be a constant hurdle. Because I was brought up to believe that a man needs to earn his love, and that would mean that he should know. He should know what I need. He should know what I'm thinking.
Every after-school special. You know it? That's wrong. Lie.
Yes.
Hollywood lied to us again.
Yes. And, men and women are different. And you need to tell your partner what you need from them. You need to tell them what's going on in your head. You want the marriage to work. And don't make him, to me, it's like making him play a game.
Yeah.
We're going to play a game.
It is a game.
And it's a game he can't win.
Right.
So
when Bob and I first got together, I was just, having been divorced, I was just making sure that I spoke up for myself, not in a selfish way, but just confidently, and just to make sure that I was heard. And he made the comment to me one time, and he goes, "You sure do speak your mind." And I said, "Yeah, and you're never confused, are you?" So I stole that from Joyce Myers. So
that's good.
Yeah.
I thought you stole it from your mama.
No.
She has a wonderful Southern mama, by the way. No, but that's good. The book Love Languages, which that's something we'll put in for you. If you've not read it, please read it.
It's a good book.
It's so good, and it teaches you about, it's the 5 love languages. It's Gary Chapman. And it's just kind of like a basic. They should give that to married couples.
Yes.
They get married, here you go. To learn what is your love language, and then also to learn what your spouse's is. This was huge for me, because this is so silly to admit, but I realized early in the marriage that once a month I didn't feel loved.
Oh.
Yes. And I would think,
your whole world was crashing in.
He doesn't write me letters like he used to. He doesn't.
Don't send me flowers.
Yes. This man that's working, 60 hours a week, and he's not writing me long love letters like he used to. Yes. And so when I read this book, I realized that my love language is time and words of affection. So I was looking for those words. I was looking for him to love me the way that I perceived love. Now,
so let's go over those 5. Can we remember them all?
I don't know.
Okay.
You're scaring me.
So
there is
quality time,
words of affection. There is physical touch.
Gifts.
There is, what'd you say?
Gifts.
Oh, yes, gift giving. And work. I don't know how.
Acts of service.
Acts of service, yes. And I found for my husband, because I had to step back and go, okay, how does he show love? Well, he adored his grandparents. So that was where I would kind of go, okay, what, how does he show love towards his grandparents? And his love language is acts of service.
No.
And gifts.
Surprise.
Yes. And he does lavish me with gifts, just thoughtful things. Very thoughtful.
Yeah.
Yes. And I can mention something once and he'll remember it, 6 months from now and get it for me. And it's very sweet. And, I would realize that I was a stay-at-home mom and my sidewalk was always, like when it would snow, it was cleared every day before he went to work, which was very early in the morning. And my sidewalk would be cleared in the event that I might have to go outside. Because, there were times I didn't even have to go anywhere.
Right.
But I realized that was love.
Yeah.
That was love every day. And when you realize that, it helps to just establish that in you.
And I think that's good wisdom for young wives that have all these, hey, I was one of them too one time. So we all have these vain imaginations and are running around.
Yes.
Well, why doesn't he do this? Or why doesn't he write me little love notes? Or why doesn't he just know that I need to be held? Just hold me. Just all those stupid little things that we do.
It's true.
And instead of just walking up to the man and say, can you hold, this morning I was just like, I just need a hug. I just need a hug. Now, do you think my husband was like, there ain't no way, woman, I am hugging you? No.
Now, see, my husband appreciates when I tell him what I need because it's like, thank you, I'm going to dance around it. But that is something we do. Like, hugs are a big deal to me. So we kind of have this thing where pretty much every day, after he gets home from work, then to hug for like 5-10 seconds. And I just need that check-in. It's like a check-in every day.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I feel good and we'll go about our business,
It's like, you're dismissed. No,
yes.
I'm teasing.
But sometimes I have to remind him, could you just give me a hug? I need a hug. So good stuff.
Yeah.
Pray together. So important that you pray together, pray for each other. Sometimes I, question, there's things that we do that I think are really good about us and things that we do that aren't so great about us. And that's an area I feel like that I do well for him. I pray for Billy all the time. I pray for his health. I pray for, his future. I pray for his desires, the things that he wants out of life. I want those things for him. And so, I'm continually praying for him. I fail in other areas, but, I'm not so good with the acts of service and the gifts thing, but.
Well, I think prayer is key, and that's an area of opportunity for lots of couples, including, my marriage. But, we do pray, but, we're not every day praying with one another.
We aren't either. But I feel, I'm just, like, he's the top of my prayer list. Have you ever read The Power of Praying Wife?
Well, yes, I have.
That, such a good book by Stormy O. Martin. That's another one we'll plug in for you. Just absolutely beautiful. In fact, did you write a song?
Why, yes, I did.
It's pretty awesome. You're being cheesy, but it's a very, very beautiful song. Could you include that for? Yeah,
I will put a link to it on the website below. It's called Praying Wife, and it was because of I was my first marriage was having some issues, and I was reading this book, and I was praying, and I was praying, and I was praying, and the Lord kind of just gave it as a download. In 20 minutes, it was done, and it's just it's a powerful song, and So it's a powerful song, but the thing is, we sometimes think that everything needs to have a happy ending. And life is not like that. Sometimes there are sad endings, and things don't work out. But that doesn't mean that God is not good, that He is not there, that He is fallen off His throne, because He is still on His throne.
Amen.
And He loves you, and He will walk with you the journey if something doesn't result in a happy ending.
Yes.
So anyway, we'll put the link down there below in the description below for that song. And
it's important to ask others to pray for your marriage. If you're going through a rough
yes.
spell, get some people to pray for the two of you. Cover your marriage in prayer. Speak the word over your marriage.
Yes.
And, next to Christ, this is the most important relationship of your life. So
Absolutely.
Put the effort in, put the work in, put the time in, and the commitment in, because it's worth it.
It has the best return on investment.
That's right. Absolutely. We hope that you've enjoyed our video on marriage, and we will talk to you soon. Love.